do make mistakes, you have a bit more fabric to work with. Sleeve and just guide it through your material all the way until just to make sure that that strap has the side. Now the reason that you're doing this is okay, let's try that again. Hello beautiful people and welcome back. I know it's been forever, but we are back at it again with another sewing tutorial. I'm just clearing up my space, and today what we are going to be sewing is a lovely winter dress. So make sure that you get ready with all these pieces. The first thing that you're going to need is a belt piece, then you will need a collar, followed by you don't need those. You need two sleeves, a back and a front marked out clearly. Then you are going to need the front piece, and the final piece you're going to need is a back piece. Now let's get started. Now taking your front and your back pieces, lay them right sides touching and sew them by the shoulder seams. The pattern for this dress I made using a dress that I already have that also has a similar type of stretch to this green material, and I just cut out the front, the back, and the sleeves. Once you are done with that, open up your dress, and right by that shoulder seam you are going to take the sleeve, and starting from the middle of the sleeve, start pinning it out to the ends just to make sure that the distribution of your fabric of the sleeve makes sense to the actual body piece. Does that make sense? Basically, you want to even out how the sleeve lays on your fabric so that it doesn't cause any weird bumps. Cool, this is actually what your dress will look like. Take that armpit seam, pin that down, and you are going to sew that all across the sleeve and all the way down the side seam of the dress. If you would like to see pictures of how this dress ended up looking, make sure that you hop onto the Grizzygram and check out my last picture that I posted there. Now I'm sewing down that side seam, but as you can see, it looks like I'm lining up the front and the back pieces, and that's because if you zoom in a bit more, the actual fabric of this dress has a particular pattern, and I wanted the pattern to line up from the front to the back. So that's why I sort of am checking along the way that I am lining up those patterns as I go down the side seam. Now everything that I'm doing on this side of the dress, make sure that you do on the other side of the dress as well. Now this is what the dress looks like on. I really liked the fit of it at this point. As you can see, this is what the dress looks like. It's quite long, but I cut out a slit at the one side of the dress, not sewing all the way down that side seam. Now you want to take your collar piece, fold that in half and sew it down the bottom. Once that's done, lay it aside and mark the center of the back part of your dress. Then what you're going to do is you're going to lay that part over the middle as I am showing you here. Pin that down, and then you are going to sew that down. Now at this point, I realized that I made a huge mistake. That's me being angry. Basically, I sewed the collar right sides facing, which means that the wrong side is on the outside. So what I had to do was unstitch that. I tried to seam rip, but that did not work because I ended up cutting the actual fabric. So what I ended up doing is just going in with a scissor and cutting off that excess seam allowance. Okay, so now actually take your collar and stitch it down, but please do not pull it. Please don't. That was the biggest mistake that I made because I have to fight to get my head through this dress and I have a big head. So please don't tug at it like I'm doing here. You just want to hold it a bit sturdy across the neckline so that it actually has some shape to it, but don't pull it so tight that you can't pull your head through it. Perfect. So now you just want to cut off that excess collar, sew that part down of the collar so that it actually meets right there in the center. Once that is sewn, you can cut off that excess fabric, and that opening that was left in the collar, you can then sew it down. Now this is what that bad boy looks like. Collar nicely done. And you can stop at this point if all you want is a dress. I ended up making a belt. And what I did is I just took my fabric and cut it in half because I was running out of fabric as per usual. So I just cut it in half, and then taking those two pieces, I sewed it down the middle with a straight stitch. And once I did that, I just laid that fold open, pinned it right sides touching, and all across that side, I did a straight stitch all along it so that I can close up that part. Making belts is actually one of my favorite things to do. I don't wear belts that much, but making belts is very satisfying for me because, I don't know, just turning the belt inside out brings me some sort of satisfaction, and you'll see me do that just now. So using a crochet needle, you can use a pen or a pencil or anything really that you can stick through your belt. You want to push it inside and just guide it through your material all the way until it gets out of the other side. Now the reason that you are doing this is because obviously when you sew down your belt, you have the wrong side facing you and you want to expose the right side whilst also keeping the stitching on the inside so that it has a nice clean finish. So once you get that through, just gently glide your belt out, making sure not to snap at the thread. And once you've got that done, just gently take out your pen, pencil, in my case a crochet needle, and that is what your belt looks like. That opening end, you can then just fold it in and hand stitch that right at the end, and that is what your belt will look like.